If you recognize the shirt, it's because I'm uploading this video like last, I guess, out of like 4 videos that I filmed at the same time, maybe. But anyway, I thought it'd be really nice in application season to make a lot of videos about applications. In this one, I mainly want to focus on how to ask for a good letter of recommendation. I think that now that we're this far, it's November, there's nothing more that you can do in terms of your relationship with that person where like there's a totally new thing they can talk about that never happened before, right? Like it's past that. Whatever collaborations you had, whatever research you've done, that happened or it's happening, but like there's not really going to be anything new. So none of my advice is going to be like, well, you need to start a project now. Like, no, we're past that. It's November 16th when I'm recording this. You can influence the quality of your letter aside from just by doing good stuff with that person. Okay, that's the first thing you should have done. You should have done a good thing while working with someone. But now it's time to ask that person to talk about the thing. And the way you ask and the information that you provide to them can have a huge impact on how well your work is actually received. And so the things I want you to keep in mind are mainly three. First off, are you telling them what you did with them when you ask? Now, I'm not saying that your first email, by the way, should be like some super crazy long thing. But after you ask, like, hey, can you write the letter? And they're like, yes. Are you telling them, like, hey, we did this together, right? Because for pretty much everybody that you ask for a letter from, while you have just your relationship with them, they have their relationship to you and like tons of other subordinates. And all those relationships are very similar and things can kind of blend together. Who knows? Was it an internship you did 2 years ago? Or was it a project you did a month ago, right? It might not be fresh. And so you should be telling them what you did together. And that's also a great chance for you to kind of control the narrative in their head a little bit, right? Like not to the level of gaslighting them, but just helping to sort of jog their memory and like, hey, like, this is Matt. And together we wrote this paper and I came up with this idea, reminding them I came up with the idea. Or if they came up with the idea, you came up with this great idea and I took it and then I designed experiments X, Y, and Z, right? These remind them of some of the key things that they need to say about you. If they agree to write the letter, typically it's because they want to and expect to be able to say good things about you. That also means if someone indicates that they don't want to write your letter, let them not write your letter, right? They're not going to write a good one. But assuming that they've agreed to write your letter, they want to say nice things about you, but they might not know what to say. And some of them, when they don't know what to say, they might lazily ask you, can you send me a draft of the letter? In that case, you have total control. The advice from this video hopefully helps you in that case, but I am not here to explain how to write a letter. That's a different video. I also personally find the practice slightly iffy, having a student write a whole letter, kind of questionable. But hopefully these tips in this video help you come up with how you would write that letter if you're asked to do it. But keep in mind, so they're not going to have a totally fresh recollection. They also aren't going to have your perspective. So this is a chance for you to give them a fresh recollection. It's a chance for you to give them your perspective. And it's a chance to help them like focus on and remember highlights and to kind of tease out the best parts of the experience that you had with them. And so that's one thing. You need to think about what are the important things we did together that I want them to talk about. And then you need to write those up for them in ways that are flattering to you, basically. And I'm not talking about some long paragraphs worth of stuff, right? That would be essentially writing a letter. And that would just overwhelm them. If all they did is agree to write the letter, you're not trying to overwhelm them with stuff, right? But you want to make sure that you've pulled up those clear highlights, right? The next thing that you want to do is, like, some letter writers, maybe all they're willing to do when they say they'll write the letter is write up their experience with you, and that's fine. Like, there's nothing you can do about that. But some letter writers, especially if they really want you to get the opportunity, are willing to go beyond that, and just try to talk good things about you generally. But even if they think they know all the good things about you, they don't, right? You've done tons of stuff. This person's not your mom. They don't. Can you ask your parent for a letter if they're like a faculty? I don't know. I've never seen that before. Like, if your parent is like your professor at Stanford, could you ask them for a letter? Maybe. If your parent's a professor at Stanford, you probably have other good letters too, I'd hope. But anyway, generally, your letter writer is not your mom. They don't know everything you've ever done. They don't know all the good stuff that you do. So what you should do is, in addition to, in the body of that email, you can remind them the highlights of your experience with them. You should also attach a packet. And that packet is like a PDF portfolio that will give them the supporting stuff that they need in order to write a good letter for you, if that's what they're going to choose to do, right? You want to make sure that PDF is easy to digest. Like, if that PDF opens up and it's an 80-page doc and it just starts going into all sorts of crap, like, what are they going to do with that, right? But if that PDF is like your resume, which highlights all the appropriate things and has a nice section on like all the service you've done and things like that, that's a great source of reference. If that packet includes a paper that, like the PDFs of a paper you've written, or like the link to some GitHub repository that you maintain, right? You can show them, like you can link those artifacts, and that would give them the chance to be able to discuss, especially if that paper you did or that repo that you maintain is related to their field of interest. They might be able to look at that and then give some nice comments and be like, yeah, I think this is like a great thing that they're doing. Especially for letter writers for like the NSFGRFP or for the DoD or DOW and DSEG. Your letter writer should look at your research proposal and then talk about how it's a good proposal. Ideally, right? They'll do that. So you want to make sure that those things are attached and that the letter writer has access to them, because chances are, if you don't give them, the letter writer might not think to ask, and then they simply will not talk about those things. Whereas if you're clear, here are the highlights, and then attached is my resume and some supporting documentation, you're giving yourself the best opportunity to have them write, first off, a good write-up of the experience you had with them, and then second off, a nice impression of you in terms of the other things that you've done or the other things that you're working on. Okay, I think it makes sense for this to be a shorter video. Not much goes into it. Hopefully you find some of that advice practical or useful. Take care, and until next time.